Okay, so we are looking at the first problem on our practice page. We have 3/4 that we are multiplying by 1/4. Now, just like when we went back and talked about multiplying whole numbers, with fractions, we're going to create an area model. So, you have a square on your paper. You're going to use that square as I use the one that I've just drawn in here. So this is talking about, I want to know what 3/4 of 1/4 of this big square would be. So I'm going to start with what I have, which is the 1/4. I'm going to actually represent 1/4 on this part up here. So when we draw 1/4, we take our square and we draw a pencil line down the middle to cut it in half. And then we take half of each half, which gives us fourths. At this point, we're going to stop and use one of our colored pencils, and we're going to go ahead and shade in 1/4 of the area of this square. Okay, so that represents what we're starting with, the 1/4. And then we need to go ahead and find out what 3/4 of that would be. So we're going to represent the 3/4 on this side. We're going to draw a line down the middle for half again. We're going to take a half of each half. And then with this, we're going to go ahead and use our second color so that we can see it. This time we're going to use a pattern so that we can see where these two areas overlap. So I'm just going to go ahead and go slashy lines. There is 1/4, 2/4, and 3/4. Now when I'm looking for my answer, we go ahead and look at the overlap of these two colors. So we're going to go ahead and outline. You've got a pencil that you can make a dark line around this section where I have both the teal and the purple colors. This would be the section that I'm talking about for my multiplication problem. So when I name this section, my numerator is going to be how many boxes have both colors in them. Well, 1, 2, 3 boxes have both colors. That's my numerator. My denominator is how many total boxes I have in the area. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 rows of 4 would be 16 total boxes. Okay, so let's look at the second problem on this practice with the teacher page. We have 3/4 that we are multiplying by 1/3. We're going to look at this problem in the very same way. We're going to go ahead and draw our area model. And it really does not matter which side our 3/4 and 1/3 go on. I could put the 3/4 up here this time. So I'm going to draw my half, and then a half of each half, to get the fourths, I switch to a color and I shade in 1, 2/4 and 3/4. And then I want to find out what 1/3 would be. So I estimate thirds. And my 1/3 is going horizontally. I get a color. We'll do red and green for Christmas. And I shade in with a pattern this time. 1/3 going across my area model. I look for the overlap of the two separate colors. I surround that so I can see it nice and big and bold. And then I have to name that fractional part of the area. For my numerator, I have 1, 2, 3 sections that have both colors out of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 times 4 would be 12. And then I look at that answer 3/12 and I ask myself, the last question with any fraction problem is, can I simplify? Will 3 go into 12? So I'm going to divide by 3/3 and I come up with 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So really it's 1/4 is my answer. Okay, let's look at the last two practice with the teacher problems. And then you're going to go on to the practice with your partner section. We have 2/5 times 1/3. Need my area here. I'm going to start with 1/3. I'm going to go up and down with 1/3, but it really doesn't matter which way I choose. As long as I've got 2/5 and 1/3, I will be able to find the area. I shade in one of the third sections. And then I go to the 2/5. Fifths are sometimes a little bit difficult to estimate. I have to remember that if my denominator is 5, I'm going to draw 4 lines to separate them into parts. Okay, so there are fifths. I'm going to make a pattern on 2 of those fifths. This top row across would be 1/5. The row under it would be 2/5. And then I'm looking at the sections that overlap with both colors. I I like to draw a dark line around mine so I can see them. They stick out. It helps me to name them. So as I look at this area model, I have two sections that have both colors. Out of 1, 2, 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. 3 times 5 is 15. I can't simplify because 2 will not go into 15. So my answer is 2/15. Now I'm hoping that you're starting to see a pattern in the math. Hoping that you're starting to see when we write this out, 2/5 times 1/3, that you're starting to see 2 times 1 and 5 times 3 is where we got our answer, 2/15. This is our standard algorithm for multiplication of fractions. Really, you just multiply straight across, and that gets you to your answer. And then, of course, you ask yourself the question, can I simplify? So let's look at the last practice with the teacher problem. We have 1/6 times 5/6. We get our area. I think sixths are easier to draw than fifths because I know there's a middle. 1/2 would be 3/6. So if I'm going up and down with 5/6, I start with the middle because that would be 3/6. And I take each of those sections and split it into thirds. That gives me somewhat even sixths, better than if I was just guessing. We get a color, and we're going to shade in 5 of those sixths. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/6. Switch the color up. We're going to put 1/6 going across horizontally. Remember, to draw sixths, we do a line across the middle, because that would be 3/6. Each section gets split into thirds. And then we go shade in, or get a pattern because it's easier to see with 2 colors. We give a pattern to 1 of those sixths going horizontally. We look for the area where both colors are in our boxes. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. Out of 6 across and 6 down would be 36. We cannot simplify because 5 is a prime number. So in the standard algorithm section of your paper, these problems with multiplying and dividing will be able to be worked horizontally. So we can write 1/6 times 5/6 equals, you can write out the middle step of thinking of 1 times, let me get my eraser out here so this makes sense. You can do this middle step of writing 1 times 5 and 6 times 6 because that's what your brain should be thinking. And then you do the math. 1 times 5 is 5, and 6 times 6 is 36. So at this point on your paper, you need to go back to the first couple of problems and do the standard algorithm. I hope that this video has helped you to be able to understand how to draw models to multiply fractions by fractions. You now have the practice with a partner and then practice on your own sections to complete.